Going to be doing something a little different in this video. Advertisements in the Old West, specifically in Dodge City. First, we're going to look at signage and displays on the streets of Dodge City, and then to the newspapers to see printed advertisements. Probably the most famous piece of advertising associated with Dodge City is the Try Prickly Ash Bitters sign. If you have seen any photos of Dodge City or have visited Boot Hill Museum, then you are probably familiar with this. The sign is on one of the water wells on Front Street, below the sign proclaiming the carrying of firearms strictly prohibited. So what are prickly ash bitters? Well, the term bitters refers to a medicinal drink with a bitter taste, made from roots or herbs. Bitters contained variable amounts of alcohol, and since they were seen as medicinal, drinking bitters did not carry the same stigma as regular alcohol. Prickly ash bitters was made with the bark of the prickly ash shrub. The bark and berries from prickly ash, specifically northern prickly ash, have been believed to have healing properties and were used in making medicine. So it's not a surprise that a tonic would include prickly ash in the ingredients and title. The earliest advertisement for prickly ash bitters I found was in 1869. Used Dr. James A. Ward's compound, prickly ash bitters, for diseases of the kidneys, bladder, and irregularities of the menses. There was a very long list of ailments prickly ash bitters was supposed to cure. In 1869, it was advertised to treat female weakness, cholera, cholera morbus, colic, loss of appetite, and general debility. The list kept growing. In 1876, it was advertised, "Are you troubled with headache, dullness, incapacity to keep the mind on any subject, dizzy, sleepy, or nervous feeling, gloomy forebodings, irritability of temper, or have you had a bad taste in the mouth, an unsteady appetite, palpitation, choking sensation in the throat, bloating of the stomach, coldness of extremities, pain in the side, or about the shoulders or back? If any of these symptoms, be sure your liver is out of order, and go immediately to your druggist, J.A. Quarles & Co., and get a bottle of Dr. Sherman's prickly ash bitters. They are the best liver medicine and antibilious preparation ever offered to the public. Sample bottles for trial." By 1878 or 1879, when this famous photograph was taken, the demand for prickly ash bitters had made its way to Dodge City, ready to be drank by cowboys suffering from any sort of sickness or injury. There's actually a pretty amusing story about the tonic, published in the Ford County Globe on October 15th of 1878. There is a strange man around town painting prickly ash bitters signs on the sides of barns and fences. The man has a wild look in his eye and a haggard expression on his countenance, while his physical constitution is in a worse condition than that of the horse in a picture called Trust. It is said that the strange man has used prickly ash bitters for 40 years and is not dead yet. Was the strange man responsible for painting the well? Who knows? Rather remarkably, if you'd like to try what prickly ash bitters tastes like, you actually can. Boot Hill Distillery at Dodge City, Kansas, has actually recreated the tonic by utilizing historical records, advertisements, druggist manuals, and even gas chromatography on rare existing bottles. You can buy a bottle of prickly ash bitters from Boot Hill Distillery. Link to their website in the description below. Moving on, like many western towns, in Dodge City, businesses would try to get the attention of potential customers by painting in large letters the name of the establishment and possibly a description of what they offered. Sometimes businesses would go a little further than simple signage to gain the attention of Texas cowboys. Frederick Zimmerman put out a large wooden rifle outside of his store to show that he both sold and repaired firearms, besides also being a hardware store. The famous Long Branch Saloon had a mounted steer's head attached to the awning out front. Why a steer head over the Long Branch? Well, the Long Branch Saloon was a step above other saloons. Besides its main room, it had a separate club room in the back, and behind that, even another room where drunks could sober up. The Long Branch had music, imported beers, and even ice from Colorado. Dr. Samuel Crumbine described the Long Branch Saloon as being a place where many professional men went. The place suggested business, and later I learned that many large cattle deals were consummated there. This is confirmed from an advertisement in the Vox Populi newspaper, a single-edition newspaper created by Bat Masterson in 1884. It advertises the Long Branch Saloon with the image of a bull, with the description, General Headquarters of Stockmen, at the bottom. Now onto newspapers. The first newspaper in Dodge City was the Dodge City Messenger, first published on February 26, 1874, and lasting until June 3, 1875. This is the July 2, 1874 edition of the newspaper. As you can see, local advertisements took up large amounts of space in the paper and used a variety of fonts in order to gain the reader's attention. Printed engravings of images were less common in this early period of Dodge City history. The Dodge City Messenger newspaper was new, with limited funds and access to more stylized engravings. The more complicated and ornate engravings in the paper were those of large companies, like the Wheeler and Wilson Sewing Machine Company and Nichols, Shepherd & Co., advertising their new thresher. These larger companies could afford making many engraving blocks that could be sent to smaller newspapers in the West. The Dodge City Messenger actually failed as a newspaper because of a lack of support from the local business community in advertising in the paper. In the October 14, 1876 edition of the Dodge City Times, we see much of the same. Local businesses either bought small, orderly advertisements in the paper, or large, spread-out sections with a lot of empty space in between words. Emphasis is placed on large and different fonts. We see an ad for Zimmerman's Outfitting and Firearm Store, and one for Charles Rath's General Store. Zimmerman was sure to advertise that he was an agent for the celebrated Improved Sharps rifles. Below, the Betty and Kelly restaurant proclaimed that it was the best restaurant in the city. Harry T. McCarty has a more subdued ad underneath. Besides being county surveyor, McCarty would become a deputy U.S. Marshal and was later killed in the Long Branch Saloon in 1878. The seventh page of the newspaper was dedicated to advertisements from larger companies. Advertisements for stoves dominated this page, which makes sense. Stoves were large and expensive items, absolutely necessary if you were going to have your own home in or around Dodge City. In the July 24, 1880 edition of the Dodge City Times, the local advertisements were looking a lot better. There was less empty space in the large ads, with more information. The Dodge House was only $2 a day for a room, and had a first-class livery feed and sales stable in connection to it. Kelly kept advertising his restaurant, still saying it was the best restaurant in the city, but now you knew that fresh oysters were constantly on hand. Next to it is an ad for John Mueller's Boot and Shoe Shop. John Mueller would make a lot of money from making and selling boots, and would own a very nice house within Dodge City. You can visit this house today. It's called the Home of Stone, and can be visited during the summer or by appointment. The seventh page of the paper is dedicated to larger company ads. I thought this ad for Hunt's Remedy to be pretty funny. A man is grappled with death itself, and is about to give him a good thunk on the head with a bottle of Hunt's Remedy. By 1883, local advertisements in the newspapers were becoming more professional and began to look like the advertisements for much larger companies. In the July 10, 1883 edition of the Ford County Globe, the empty spaces are pretty much gone. Instead, there's a load of information about every business. Zimmerman's store now has a large image of a stove. Around it is a list of goods he sells. The Lone Star Saloon and restaurant now has a nice logo with the name, and the Dodge City Mills made sure you knew it had flour. On the third page, the Great Western Hotel has kind of a joke. A skinny guy is asking where he can get a good meal, and the bigger guy knows just where to go. The Great Western Hotel, the best in the country. 1885 was the last year of the cattle drives in Dodge City, and the wild days were beginning to come to a close. The Globe Livestock Journal of July 7, 1885 shows this change. The advertisements for saloons have been replaced by ads for drugstores, grocery stores, and dry goods stores. Hamilton Bell advertised his livery barn with an elephant, as it was known as Ham Bell's Elephant Stables. Why was it called the Elephant Stables? Well, because it was the largest livery barn in Dodge City. Further on in the paper, there is an advertisement for Dunn and Kirkpatrick's Furniture and Undertakers. There has always been a connection between furniture makers and undertakers or funeral parlors. Simply put, if you were skilled enough at making nice and elaborate coffins, then you already had the skills and resources of making well-constructed furniture, and vice versa. So, those are some advertisements during the time of the Wild West in Dodge City. Something a little different I thought I'd try. Thanks for watching.